Good morning. On this Good Friday, welcome to Grand Rounds Friday. I'm Darlene Corcoran, and I have the honor this morning of introducing our presenter. I want you to join me in welcoming Dr. Astrid Pujari. She is our medical director of the Department of Integrative Medicine, and she specializes in holistic support of cancer patients, women's health, functional medicine, and holistic options for GI issues and mind-body tools. Dr. Pujari is board certified in internal medicine, integrative medicine, and integrative holistic medicine. Her training includes her MD degree from Tufts School of Medicine, the College of Phytotherapy in Sussex, England, and her residency at Scripps Clinic. Today we are so privileged to have her share a very timely Grand Rounds topic, well-being amidst a pandemic, an integrative approach. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Pujari.
Thank you. Thanks, Darlene. Hello, thank you so much for being here virtually and in person for some people. It is such a privilege to be here. And I was asked about a week ago to present if I would be willing to do a talk to address all of the stress that's happened with the pandemic, not only for you, but for all of us. And I was really struck by that actually, because when I think about Grand Rounds, I usually think about evidence-based medicine and data, and that is very important. And what I'm aware of is in this time of pain and difficulty, that this is also a time where we're focusing on the importance of the heart. The importance of the heart. And we're not just focused, what I'm noticing is that we're not just focused on getting things done physically, tasks, which are very important. And there's many tasks that I know that we've been achieving and are still continuing to achieve. But we're also focusing on the way in which we do that. The way in which we do that, the how, and the heart that we put into it. And because of that, we're also focused on the meaning that we create in doing that. Because with heart comes meaning. And so I want to personally thank you, because for me, I'm standing here because of you. Because you have been part of this change, and because you are part of this change. And what I mean by that change is that we're starting to integrate data with heart, medicine with soul, and tasks with meaning. And that's a very different world we're moving into. And so for me, I stand here because of you, and I feel that that's a deep privilege, and I'm very grateful to you. So thank you. Okay, so we're going to work on stressing less and 1 hour timeout for your well-being. Okay, and these are air hugs. These are from some little kids in Atlanta or Alabama, I believe, who were offering free air hugs. Okay. So I love Helen Keller. I just find her such an inspirational person. And so this is a quote from Helen Keller, that the world is full of suffering and it is also full of the overcoming of it. And I think she's somebody who can really speak to that. And I also like to start with a poem. So this is a poem that was written specifically in this time of COVID. And I don't know who it's written by, it's anonymous, but I love it. So it says, when you go out and see the empty streets, the empty stadiums, the empty train platforms, don't say to yourself, it looks like the end of the world. What you're seeing is love in action. What you're seeing in that negative space is how much we do care for one another, for our grandparents, for our immune-compromised brothers and sisters, for people we will never meet. Take a moment when you're out on your walk or on your way to the store or just watching the news to look into the emptiness and marvel at that love. Let it fill you and sustain you. It is not the end of the world. It is the most remarkable act of global solidarity we may ever witness. So I've been practicing for a while in medicine, and I know many of you have as well. And one of the things that I'm always struck by is the privilege of, in my case, being a doctor, but in all of our cases, being in healthcare, is the privilege actually that our jobs have intrinsic meaning. And not all jobs have that. We're actually very, very blessed to have jobs of intrinsic meaning. And what I will share too is that I know that we're not always acknowledged for that we're not always acknowledged for the value that we bring every day to helping. Basically, we've dedicated ourselves to helping people to be healthier. And that's actually a huge, huge service to humanity and to the world. But it's not always acknowledged. And so I want to take a moment now, because I think one remarkable piece that I've noticed about this time of COVID is actually we are being acknowledged, and we're being acknowledged in a very, very big way. And so I wanted to show a video from this John Krasinski. This is a YouTube video. And that just goes through some of the ways in which we are being acknowledged. And you are being acknowledged, most importantly.
Good evening, everybody, even though it is very clearly the afternoon, and welcome to SGN. John, what is SGN? That's a good question. For years now, I've been wondering, why is there not a news show dedicated entirely to good news? Well, desperately seeking my fix somewhere else, I reached out to all of you this week, asking, nay begging, for some good news. And boy, did you deliver. After reading those replies and the incredibly heartwarming stories that came with them, I thought, all right, enough is enough, world. Why not us? Why not now? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is your fault, and this is SGN. I'm John Krasinski, and if it isn't clear yet, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. And now, for some good news. And what a week for good news it was. Because yes, without question, we are all going through an incredibly trying time. But through all the anxiety, through all the confusion, all the isolation, and all the Tiger King, somehow the human spirit still found a way to break through and blow us all away. Nowhere was that seen more powerfully than in the heroism of the global healthcare community. Now, these men and women are working day in and day out. They are putting their own health on the lines. They are putting their own lives on the lines for complete and total strangers. And they're doing it without the need for so much as a thank you. Well, luckily the thank yous came anyway. And the heartfelt appreciation was seen on a global scale. In Spain, police lined the street outside their local hospital and flashed their lights and applauded their appreciation for their hospital staff. In London, an ICU nurse told her boyfriend she didn't believe there would be any clapping. She was wrong. Even out at sea, NATO sailors and staff applaud their healthcare heroes back home from their command centers, the decks of their ships, and even underwater. And the love and appreciation was felt right here at home in the US, whether from the balconies of lit up apartment buildings to the old-fashioned up-close and personal kind, where a man holds up a sign simply saying thank you to the hospital staff for saving his wife's life. And of course, you can find more.
So the last sign was actually from my parents' hometown. And so I find that very moving. It's just such a powerful reminder, because actually all of you are doing this every day. We are all actually contributing to the good of humanity every single day. And now is a time where that's actually globally recognized. And I just want to remember that, because that's extraordinary. It really is. Okay, so
those amazing.
Oops, forgive me. I'm still learning. Okay, so what I wanted to share also is that we all are contributing to that good, and that there's a lot of people who are using this crisis to become better people and to do amazing things for the world. So I just also want to remind us that, again, as Helen Keller is saying, that this is a time not only of suffering, but of the overcoming of it. So I just want to give some examples of that. The credit goes to, I wrote the credit here from this website. You can see up here, there's the gentleman who says, he's holding this sign saying, "Thank you all in emergency for saving my wife's life. I love you all." And then there's this gentleman who is putting food in a basket in Naples, and his sign in Italian reads, "Who can put food in, puts in, and who cannot takes the food out." And actually this started an entire, let's call it, just a lot of people in Naples now are hanging these baskets for the homeless where they put food in them so that people can eat. And then there's a cardinal in Poland who's become a milkman and is driving hundreds of miles a day to serve the needy. Another example that I actually just found out about was there's a woman who in India was working for social media, and she's a single mom. She, on March 17th, offered on Facebook to just some of her friends to bring food to, grandmothers and family members. Well, it quickly blossomed. She had hundreds and hundreds of people requesting to, in 2 weeks, 20,000 volunteers all over India who are now driving and dropping off food. And I was reading about this one story of this gentleman who had gone to surgery, had gone home, and there was no food, no water, and he's 7 years old. And so these people are dropping off food and helping bring medicines and take care of them. 20,000 volunteers in 2 weeks. And to organize that in India, I don't know if any of you have been to India, but it's extraordinary to me. There's a lot of logistics in that. And then there's a CEO of a very famous chain of restaurants in the U.S. who actually forwent his salary, his base salary and his bonus for the rest of the year to give to frontline staff for his employees. In rural America, there are police force are delivering food to the vulnerable. In Detroit, forced to close down for the coronavirus, this reads, Detroit mom and pop restaurants are cooking food for the homeless. And in New York, landlord canceled rent for hundreds of tenants just out of generosity. And these are only, there's so many examples. I could just go on, but here's more. Portugal is now treating migrants for this time period during the coronavirus as residents. And so therefore they have access to public services like healthcare and actually shelter. Part of the Cuban Army of White Robes, which is basically their healthcare, they went to Italy to help with the coronavirus. And the UN chief called for a global ceasefire. More than a dozen countries had already agreed as of April 4th. So I say this also on behalf of those who are non-human members of the planet, who are also grateful to us for this time. Endangered turtles in India, there's actually this specific turtle that usually gets poached every year, and this year that turtle is going to lay 60 million eggs and is not getting poached, which is amazing. Stanford researchers have found that not only could the coronavirus trigger the greatest drop in carbon emissions since World War II, but actually likely saved 77,000 human lives by drop in emissions alone. And that's just in China, not including LA, Venice. I mean, we could go on and on about that. This, of course, is a picture from Venice where they've had where they've had waters with fish in them for the first time in years. And that's also not including all of the benefit that it's been for our animals and the rest of the non-human members of our planet. So who feels better hearing these facts? I definitely felt a lot better, honestly. I was, again, grateful to you to be able to even do this talk, because just reading it and having to research these, I felt so much better, right? And actually, though, this actually has a point, which I'm sure you're not surprised by, which is that when we become aware of these facts, it helps to bring perspective to things, and it also helps us to remember a key antidote to stress, which is gratitude. Gratitude in studies actually is defined as noticing the positive and the good in our lives, and doing that very intentionally, because we have a choice. We have an entire plethora of things to focus on, but we can choose to cultivate and to focus our lens on places that serve us and the rest of humanity. And that's a big thing to remember during this time. I love this quote. Jason Mraz is a singer that my kids like, and he has this song called Point Your Camera at Love. And so he asks people to send in all these photos, but that's the same point that they make in the studies, which is, where are we focusing our lens? That is the definition of gratitude. And there's a tremendous amount of data to support this, because what's a talk without data? So let's go through a little bit of it. So Emmons and McClough are actually very famous, well-known researchers in gratitude. And this is a study from 2003 where they did actually several randomized control trials, and I listed two of them here that are very well known. One is with graduate students, and they looked at graduate students for 10 weeks, and then another group was actually patients with neuromuscular disease. And basically what they had them do was write down either, for 10 weeks, 5 hassles, 5 neutral events, or 5 things that they were grateful for. And basically what they found was that the people who focused on gratitude, there was a strong impact on psychological well-being, decreased depression, which you see again and again and again and again in so many studies, and better sleep, which I think we could all use. In addition, this study in 2005 was a study of 577 participants. They actually used 5 different interventions, and I didn't list all of them because they would be very long. And the ones that actually showed the biggest improvement was writing 3 good things a day, or delivering what's called a gratitude letter. So basically a gratitude letter is when you write out what you're, to somebody you haven't thanked before, you write out what you're grateful for to them, and you deliver the letter, ideally in person. So that's what they did in this study. And they found that people who did that had an actual, of course they like to do the measurements, but based on these scales, there was an increase in overall happiness and well-being by 10% over 3 to 6 months. So it lasted beyond this study. And of course, a decrease in depression. Then gratitude at work, there's a number of studies on as well, and I just listed a few here. This is a study from 5 public health hospitals with 102 hospital staff. And they basically kept a work-related diary. So this is a diary specifically and only for work, where they twice a week either wrote something they were grateful for at work, or they wrote hassles that they experienced at work, or they wrote basically neutral but impactful events. And what they found is that the staff who wrote about gratitude had a dramatically different viewpoint on work, with a lot less stress and a lot less depression over 3 months. And then these other studies basically showed that when we express gratitude to employees, particularly in that first year, and appreciation in that first year, that they're less likely to leave the organization 6 months later. And in addition, managers who express gratitude to employees and appreciation enhances managerial skills, motivating abilities, and mentorship abilities for the employees. So as I mentioned, in studies, it's noticing and appreciating the positive and good in the world. That's what gratitude really means. And remember, it doesn't have to be towards a person, because sometimes I think people think, oh, it can only be towards a person. But it can be for anything. It can be for nature. It can be for our bodies. It can be for animals. It doesn't have to just be for people. It can be for life. And examples that are used commonly are writing down the good that happened during the day, or things that you're grateful for during the day, and also writing a letter of gratitude, as I mentioned, to somebody that you've never thanked. And another key piece that I think sometimes I need to be reminded of is descriptive praise. So many of you may know this, but descriptive praise basically means that rather than just saying, hey, that's a good job, right? You actually write out or say specifically what it was in detail that you were thankful for. So I'm going to make one up right now, but let's say with my son, rather than saying, hey, good job, you put away the dishes, I can say, hey, I noticed that you took the time to clean the dishes and put them away, and I didn't need to ask you, and I'm really grateful and I appreciate that. So you're putting in a little more detail about specifically what it is that you're appreciating. And that's very important actually, because it shows that you're paying attention. So I have a gratitude challenge that I'm putting out. I thought that this would be a great idea, but we'll see whether you think it's a good idea. I think what would be a great idea is once a day for 2 weeks, we email or text somebody at work, because this is, we're going through a lot at Virginia Mason. Email or text somebody at work a thank you with descriptive praise, because I think people could use it. And I know that we all can use gratitude right now because there's a lot going on. And so I'm just putting out a gratitude challenge. All right. So now I want to talk about stress. And I know this cat doesn't look very stressed, but I want to talk about stress and remind you about stress before we do some exercises to reduce stress. So as we know, as a reminder, when we're stressed, we go into fight or flight response. Okay? So reminding us that our bodies actually don't care. In a way, we're kind of simplistic. Our bodies really don't care what the stress is from. It doesn't care if it's a tiger, if it's traffic, which we don't really have much anymore. I got here in 20 minutes today. But, a big inbox or email box. And it doesn't mind if it's the coronavirus or our inner critic. It really doesn't care where the stress comes from. It basically funnels down and causes the fight or flight response. So in a way, that's actually kind of convenient, because then if we can offset that, it can make a big difference for us physiologically. So I want to remind us, and I know we all know this, but this is a reminder, that with the fight or flight response, of course, we have physical changes. So the increase in heart rate, and especially chronic stress. So, acute stress is one thing, and that may have actual benefits, but chronic is like day after day, year after year, right? So heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, cholesterol goes up, the immune system actually gets suppressed, insomnia, irritability, libido, and this all happens because of, various changes in our catecholamines, etc. But what I want to remind us of is that actually when we're in fight or flight, it actually also affects our ability to problem solve. It actually causes us to think short-term rather than long-term. It actually increases our emotional reactivity rather than being thoughtful. It actually decreases our ability to find creative solutions, to focus on big picture problem solving, and it also decreases our compassion and empathy. And I want to say that because right now we all know that those things are important. This change, this experience that we're going through, we know we have to think longer term than just 2 weeks. And I'm saying stuff that we already know, but I think it's important to remember that it's fight or flight doesn't just affect us physically. It also affects how we think in terms of our problem-solving ability. So again, maybe some of you have read or know about in terms of studies, but Herbert Benson is very, very well known in meditation and mindfulness research. He's actually a gentleman at Harvard who I had the privilege of seeing speak when I was in med school. And he actually instituted or started a lot of the meditation research that, he created and interested in, mostly by studying actually transcendental meditation. And basically what he described with meditation is that there's this response. We always think of the fight or flight response, and we're all familiar with that. But there's this response that's generated when we meditate or when we practice mindfulness that is basically the opposite of the fight or flight response. And he coined the term relaxation response. The relaxation response basically counteracts the physiologic effects of the fight or flight response. So here we are again with the fight or flight response. But as you can see, the relaxation response has been shown to actually counteract all of those things. So it drops heart rate, blood pressure. Blood lactate is a measure of inflammation in this case. improves the immune system, improves digestion, sense of well-being, and libido. So this has been shown over, now it's been 50 years actually, so because he did his studies in the 70s, which is remarkable. And what again I want to remind us though is it's again not just about physicality or physical response to fight or flight, that actually meditation and mindfulness techniques have been shown to develop the areas of the brain that are responsible for attention and focus, including, so primarily the prefrontal cortex. So it strengthens the connection actually between the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system, which we know that the limbic system actually generates a lot of that emotional response and fight or flight response, especially through the amygdala. So what meditation and mindfulness techniques have been shown to do is actually increase our creative problem solving, long-term thinking ability, empathy and compassion, and our ability to work harmoniously with others, because that prefrontal cortex is able to actually regulate what happens in the limbic system. It doesn't mean that we don't have emotions. It means that we're better able to regulate ourselves. So what works? Actually, in studies, breathing helps, gratitude helps, which is why I started with gratitude actually, and focusing on repeated sound, word, thought, movement, whatever. Now, why the repetition? Actually, as it turns out, when we repeat a sound over and over, maybe some of you have been to the ocean and you've heard the ocean waves or drumming. What actually happens when we hear repeated sound actually is our brain goes into a theta wave state, which is more of a hypnotic or a meditative state. So it allows us to relax, especially when we're focusing on it. One thing that I do want to say that we forget, and that I have to say to patients again and again, is that the difference between the fight or flight and the relaxation response is that with fight or flight, it happens automatically. We don't have to think about it. But with relaxation response, in order to engender that physiologic response, we actually have to intentionally focus on relaxing and take time out to do that, which we will be doing now together. But I just want to say that because that is a key difference between the fight or flight response and the relaxation response. So I have patients who are like, well, you know, I watch TV at night and I'm drinking a margarita, aren't I relaxed, right? But actually, and I have actually done this, walked around with the biofeedback device, people like sitting in an audience, like when I was doing a TV thing one time, just because it helps people see like, oh, here it is, I'm just relaxing, but actually physiologically, we're not necessarily relaxed. So when you're trying to engender the relaxation response, physiologically, you want to concentrate on relaxing, and there are certain techniques that you can do that help with that. This is a brief reminder of data on mindfulness and meditation. I just want to go back through that again. So this is a study from JAMA Internal Medicine in 2014. Anxiety and depression and pain all decrease with meditation and mindfulness. And you can see here the effect size for depression is similar to what it is with an antidepressant. So the point here is that meditation does help to change baseline emotional states. This is a study of loving kindness meditation, which is a type that we'll do today. And it was at 212 patients who practiced loving kindness meditation over 9 weeks. And what was found is that it increased people's love, joy, gratitude, contentment, pride, interest, amusement, and awe. And that these changes linked to an increase of being satisfied with their lives, more positive relationships with others, self-acceptance, and good physical health. So again, the point being that meditation does change our baseline emotional habits. And then this study from mindfulness meditation comparing meditators to non-meditators, and they actually tried to create a negative stimulus in this study. And basically the people who meditated had better emotional control, better cognitive control. They were less fearful in terms of anticipating negative stimuli, and they had less pain. So it's not that they weren't aware of what was going on, it's just that they were less focused on that. And they didn't, it it was less influential on their emotional state. So even though they had and perceived the negative event, because that's another thing. I think sometimes people think, oh, if I have gratitude or if I focus on the positive, that means I'm like Pollyanna and ignoring the negative. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being realistic and yet optimistic, and that's a very different thing. Optimism does not mean you are not realistic. It means that you're aware and yet you have emotional regulation and you have the ability to influence your emotional state and choose how you're going to react. And it empowers, it's actually an empowering fact. So meditation in this case improved focus, awareness, and the ability not to get bogged down by negative stimuli even though people are aware of it. So that's key. People are aware of it, they're just not getting bogged down by it. And then lastly, this is from Harvard Business Review. I liked this review where they looked at a number of different studies, and they found 4 well-documented benefits of mindfulness in the workplace. So better focus and concentration with higher productivity and fewer conceptual gaps, less stress and better recovery from stressful events, better working memory. So their ability again to do complex problem thinking was improved, and improved corporate citizenship. So greater likelihood of helping someone in need, increased circuits for caring and thoughtfulness, again, which is what we need now. We need this ability to work harmoniously with others. So I'll finish with this quote and then we'll go through some actual practice. In the world of things being uncertain, miracles can happen. In a world of certainty, there are no miracles at all. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this up. What I'd like to do is start with some breathing exercises because as I've shared, breathing is extremely powerful for helping the relaxation response. So I'm just going to try to put this down here. Okay, so let's start. We can do this seated or we can do it standing up, whatever you prefer. I'm going to do it standing so you can see me better. So this is called centering breath. So we're going to start with centering breath. So as you breathe in, you're going to breathe like this and breathe out. And then breathe in and breathe out. So it goes like this. So we're going to do it 3 times. Just relaxing. And now the other hand up. And just relaxing. Okay. So the next breath, which again you can do sitting also. So you're going to put your hands back to back like this. And I'll just demonstrate one for you. So you're going to breathe. We're going to breathe in, and the breath's going to go all the way up. So it's going to go like this. We're breathing, continuing to breathe in, hold, and then breathing out, keeping our hands flexed, and then out like this. Okay? So, and it feels great because you're actually stretching at the same time. So we're going to do this. We're going to do some together. All right? We're going to do about 10 together. So breathing in, hold, and then out with your hands flexed. Exhaling. Again. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And just relaxing. Okay, the next one is called gathering breath, and so we're gonna start like this, breathing up, and then you're gonna push down as you exhale. Okay, then breathing up, and push down. And breathing up. Push down. Breathing up. Push down. Breathing up. Push down. And just relaxing. Okay, the next one is easier to do in a chair, so that works out for all of us here. Okay, so what you're going to do, and this is kind of like chair yoga in a way, so we're going to start with slouched like this, okay, and then we're going to breathe up like this. So it's going to go fairly rapidly, so it looks like this. And then once you catch on, you can just join me, okay? So it goes like, and you're breathing in and out of your nose. All right, so. And just relaxing. Okay, so the next one we're going to actually shrug our shoulders and do the same breath, okay? So it's coming in and out of our nose fairly rapidly, so it looks like this, and just do it when you catch on. So and just relaxing. Okay, next one, our hands are at bear grip at our heart. So bear grip is holding your hands like this and you're kind of pulling on them. And we're going to lift our right elbow, breathe in, left elbow, breathe out. So it looks like this. And just relaxing. Okay, next one, we're at bear grip at our heart again. And then you're going to lift your left elbow, breathe in, right elbow, breathe out. So it looks like this. And just relaxing. So the next one, you're actually hugging yourself like this, and you can do it however it feels comfortable to you. So you're basically putting your hands around your chest, okay? And the idea behind this breath is if you just close your eyes, because what you're trying to do here is just actually feel what it feels like to breathe. And so as you breathe in, just breathe in naturally, and you're going to just feel the expansion of your ribs on your arms and your diaphragm, and just feel what it feels like to breathe in. And then as you exhale, feel what it feels like to have your ribs move gently away from your hands. So you're breathing, as you breathe in, feeling the expansion of your chest into your arms, and as you breathe out, feeling your chest relax away from your arms, and feeling the relaxation of your muscles. So as you breathe in, you're feeling physically the expansion of your chest into your arms, and then you breathe out and you're feeling that relaxation. So I'll take a moment of silence where you can do that on your own. And just noticing what it feels like. And now just putting your hand on your chest like this, on your heart. And you're going to do the same thing. You're just feeling your chest as it rises and falls, feeling it rise into your hand. And then fall with the exhale. Natural breath. Now we're just gonna, as we do this, we're gonna now, as we breathe in, we're gonna use the meditation from the Dalai Lama. So as you breathe in, cherish yourself. And as you breathe out, cherish others. You can just imagine that. Sometimes people imagine it like a light. You breathe in, cherishing yourself. And as you breathe out, you're cherishing others. As you breathe in, cherishing yourself. And as you breathe out, cherishing others. Breathing in, cherishing yourself. And breathing out, cherishing others. Breathing in, cherishing yourself. And breathing out, cherishing others. Now take a moment in your own self with your eyes closed to think of something you're grateful for. Anything, it can be anything. Something you're genuinely grateful for. And as you breathe now, just breathe that gratitude. Just really feel that gratitude. And again, it doesn't matter what you are grateful for. It just matters that you're genuinely grateful for it, whatever it is. Just breathe that gratitude. And just visualize now that gratitude expanding around your body. Now take a moment to be grateful to your body. And those of us, all of us who have studied medicine know how miraculous the body is in all of its functions. Think about your heart beating, constantly beating without ever stopping, day in and day out, without work from any of us, consciously. And just being grateful to your heartbeat. Being grateful to your blood for everything that it does. Cleans your body, brings oxygen to all your cells, never asking for a thank you. Keeps alive all of your tissues. Never even asking for acknowledgement. Your lungs. Think about your feet and how much they carry every day and allow you to walk around, and how blessed we are to even be able to walk, which we all know. Just acknowledging our legs and our feet. Acknowledging our eyes, which allow us to see. We all know of people who can't see. Just think about your life and how your sight enables your life to be so much better for those who can see. Just gratitude for your sight. And just gratitude for the body in general. Thank you. I'm very grateful for the time today. Do you feel more relaxed? Yes.
We do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there evidence for supplements or diets to help reduce stress, fear, and anxiety?
So the question is there evidence to support diets or supplements to reduce fear and anxiety?
Yes, and stress.
And stress. That's a very complex question, and that may be a whole nother 2 grand rounds maybe. It depends on which supplement, which diet, and so, and then there's also the balance of taking a supplement and medications and interactions. There's a lot of complexity to that question. It's a really good question. Simply put, when you eat well, and well means healthily, and there's a lot of information on eating healthy, it does help your physiology to work better. And so helping your physiology to work better will make you more resilient. And that makes you more resilient not only with stress and anxiety, but it actually, eating well, eating healthily does change many things physically for the body, not only high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes risk, heart risk, but it also will naturally make your body more resilient. And then therefore, if we're talking about stress as physiologically fight or flight, it will help with that and inflammation. Because actually, one thing we didn't talk a lot about is that fight or flight does increase inflammation in the body. And that's, talking about what healthy diet is a longer conversation. But there are resources. Andrew Weil has a book on eating healthily. There's many, many books on how to do that, and even the U.S. government. So, thank you. Any other question? No? Okay. All right. Thank you.